Welcome to the Young Turks Show. I'm Anna Kasparian. J.R. Jackson is here, not only filling in for Cenk, he will permanently replace Cenk Uygur, who is no longer with the company. I'm just kidding. Everyone's freaking out right now. Cenk just wrapped up an interview with Current TV. He'll be in about half an hour to 45 minutes.
I will play the role of Cenk Uygur today. So with that in mind, Wasiktilan. God, it's hot in here.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody get me a fillet of fish, please. Somebody.
I need a fruit injection. All right. We have great stories for you guys. As you know, Cenk has been in the middle of press conferences, interviews. He's talking to the press. You know, this whole MSNBC thing continues to unravel. So he will be here, and he will do a full hour of political news following this hour. In this hour, we will have a little mix of political news. We will have some fun stories for you guys. Actually, this is a pretty heavy hour based on JR's reactions to the stories I put in the rundown.
It's depression hour.
There are a few depressing stories, but I think that they're relevant, and I think that these are discussions that need to be had.
They're very important.
They are important. But look, we're going to end the show, or this hour of the show, with Rebecca Black. So just to show you the diversity in this hour, it's amazing.
Rebecca, she's back.
She's back. She is, unfortunately. All right, but let's start off with an update on a story we did earlier this week. It's regarding 17-year-old Tyler Hadley, who bludgeoned his mother and father to death in his own home and then proceeded to have a party where he hosted 40 to 60 people. Now, the story has an update because it turns out that his best friend is being questioned by authorities. He is part of the investigation. His best friend actually turns out to be the individual who turned Tyler Hadley in. So Tyler Hadley had apparently been threatening to kill his parents for a while. And, you know, his friend, who is only identified as MM, we don't know his true identity, he says, look, he threatened to kill his parents on so many different occasions. I never took him seriously. And even on the day when he actually did kill his parents, he told me that he had done it, and I didn't believe him until he showed me their dead bodies.
I think maybe at that point it'd be, I mean, you know, it makes sense. I was sensing maybe a little bit of like disbelief in your voice when he didn't believe him, he continued to not believe him until he actually saw the dead bodies. I could see going down that route. If a kid is always saying stuff like that, especially since kids sometimes say stupid things over and over and over again.
He's 17. I mean, 17-year-olds say, oh, I want to kill my parents. Totally. They say stuff like that all the time. You know, they get grounded and they feel angry. Oh, I hate my mom or I hate my dad. So, you know, I think that the best friend's reaction to this was a very normal reaction. But here's the important part. After he saw the dead bodies, he turned his best friend in. And that shows me that this is not, you know, a bad person. He had absolutely nothing to do with the crime. He informed the authorities immediately. And that's why there was a welfare check at the house during the party. And that's why police officials were able to find the dead bodies. By the way, the details into how he killed his parents are gruesome. Not only did he use a hammer to kill them, it turns out that Tyler Hadley told his best friend that he was standing behind his mother for about 5 minutes. She was on the computer. She didn't know that he was behind her. And he took the hammer, and the first blow came to the head. He hit her in the head, and the last words that she said to Tyler was, why are you doing this? Right.
See, so it sounded, I mean, as you read through all the details of how this went down, sadly enough, it was like unraveling like it's not a Lifetime movie, but just a TV movie where it's like the final words of his mother as she was looking up at her murderous son was, why has she stretched her hand out? You know, it sounds so horrible, but I guess maybe sometimes, you know, real life mimics those movies when they're so ultra dramatic.
That's why Lifetime movies are so good. They're so realistic. No, this is such a gruesome story. And, you know, when Cenk and I originally covered this story, he said that he was worried that Tyler Hadley would not serve the right punishment for this crime, and I think he will. I mean, it's such a gruesome murder.
It seems like
and he is being tried as an adult.
Yeah, he is. Okay, because it seems like it's going to get to the point of somebody's got to throw in insanity somewhere with the descriptions. If everything went down exactly the way his friend described him doing it, you know, then his father came in and saw him, and then saw what was going on. He attacked him with the hammer. At the same time, it all went down. He cleaned up for 3 hours. You know, he tried to prove to his friend, hey, look, the cars are parked out front. They're not here. Where do you think they are? All this stuff. He was trying to prove it to him. And also, his plan was to overdose and kill himself as well.
Right, which was another fascinating aspect of the
Yeah.
story. He told his best friend that he wanted to overdose on painkillers,
Right.
and he was unable to do that before the authorities arrived.
Right.
So
it's and this
he has issues.
First
There's
thought,
no question.
So you go outside. It's nighttime. The party's going on. That's when he told his friend. It was during the party. You go outside. He shows you the cars. Nobody's in the cars are still there. He shows you the garage. There's bloody footprints in the garage. Then he takes him to the room. When I'm seeing, first off, the bloody footprint, I'm like, okay, I don't know how long he's known the kid. It's his best friend. I think kids use that term loosely. I never believed in best friends. But anyway, I don't know how long you've known this guy or how well you know him, but the first thought, you're standing there, I'm going, let me watch my back. This guy just likes killing people. If he can kill his parents, maybe he's willing to kill his friend of 2 years. I don't know how long they've known each other, or forget it, of 10, 15 years. Maybe they grew up together. I don't care. But eventually you gotta go, okay, I don't care how much this guy's playing. When I see blood and now the gears are beginning to turn, are we gonna be fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I would be afraid for my life, to be honest. It obviously sounds like he's an unstable person.
Because if he was thinking the rest of the way out, because obviously this was premeditated.
It was.
If he was thinking the rest of the way out, he's probably thinking, I'm telling a friend, maybe he's over it now, maybe his sanity is coming back to him. And he's like, oh, this guy's gonna turn me in, which makes sense because that's what he did. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much long the movie was gonna play out for this kid in his mind.
I mean, it is extremely dangerous when you consider the fact that there were so many people at that party, and some of the people who attended the party also spoke to authorities, and they said, look, he had his pupils were dilated, he looked like he was wired, he wouldn't stop talking, he was jittery, and who knows what type of, weird mental state he was in that moment, because he could have easily hurt other people.
If you're standing for 5 minutes behind your mother, silently, maybe she can't hear very well, but if you're standing there silent, you're a little crazy. So, which begs the question, let's go to this point.
Okay.
His lawyer has entered a plea of not guilty. You were on a jury once. Uh-huh. Where do you go? Where's your, of course, without hearing all the evidence, you don't know any of this stuff.
I don't know this stuff.
But your first thought?
My first thought is that he's guilty.
But is he insane?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I would have to hear evidence. We don't know too much about Tyler Hadley. I don't know what his past is. I don't know if he's on any type of antidepressant or if he's on any other type of prescription medication. There were obviously painkillers in the house. He had painkillers. Where did he get those from?
Right.
And you never know. There could be, this is just me saying that it's a possibility, okay? In the realm of possibilities, it's one of them. You never know. Maybe he was abused or something.
Right.
So I would have to hear all of the evidence in the case for me to say. But I can definitely say that he was unstable. There's something wrong with this kid. No one has the ability to kill others with a hammer and have a party right afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
It was all planned. I mean, it's...
All right, my favorite story of the day. Michelle and Marcus Bachmann's clinic was targeted by gay activists. I love this video. It honestly brightened my day. So these gay activists decided, okay, let's go to this anti-gay clinic where they attempt to cure people of their homosexuality, and let's prove to them that gay people are barbarians. Okay, let's let them feel like they're right for once. Okay, let's watch the first.
Because as we know, Marcus Bachmann had I don't know how famous the quote is now, that they're barbarians and they need to be taught. And I was trying to avoid it. I'm glad you did it.
Look, it's the truth. You listen to that video and you're like, it's unnatural.
And they make multiple references to that, which fueled this protest.
So we took their video, we broke it up into two parts that I think are the best parts. Let's watch the first.
Take a look in your book. We got an appointment to see Marcus. Marcus! Is he here today?
No.
Not here today. That busy guy. We need to be disciplined. We need discipline.
I'm sorry, but I do need to ask you to leave. This is a private business.
What a disappointment. We came to see Marcus. We need to be disciplined.
So I love that because it's like, oh, you want barbarian? We'll give you barbarian. So they're dressed up in like the cheetah print and like,
the cheetah print sleeves. I don't even know what the hell those are. Those are leg warmers maybe.
You know what though? That sounds like the beginning of a porn. Like, we want to be disciplined. Like they're in a clinic, they've been bad, they're barbarians.
I don't want to see Marcus Bachmann walk out in that porn.
I know, Marcus Bachmann, can you imagine? He's like, really? Anyway, so the second part of the video is even better. They attack, but they have an interesting weapon for their attack. Let's watch.
Hey, Marcus, what's in your closet?
Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Subway can rejoice the truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. But it's not a sin, believe properly, giant.
So there are two weapons that were utilized in that video. One of them was glitter. The second was Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I don't know how long the protests went or for how long they were, because the old lady eventually wanted to kick them out. She goes, "I'm sorry, you guys have to leave." Now the thing is you knew the police were probably going to call next.
Right.
So I don't know if at least the video was edited obviously down by them, but I wonder how long the glitter and the dance party inside the lobby lasted, because you have to be in and out real fast. Make it happen so that you won't get the police showing up. It looks like they got in, did their party, and got out before the police showed up.
It seems that way. It seems that way. Let me just say this. I love gay people, okay? And this is why. I love gay people for many different reasons. But their way of protesting is having a dance party in an anti-gay clinic with glitter. Who doesn't love gay people? I just don't understand you if you don't.
They have to clean up the mess afterwards.
Clean up the mess. Who cares? That was a great video.
I'm talking about the people they go after.
Oh, right.
They have to have a constant reminder. They have to get out the room. So it didn't look like they were doing anything that day anyway.
Yeah, that would look like the loneliest clinic on the planet. Okay. But I love that protest. I don't think that they did anything criminal or wrong. It didn't seem like they were violent. They went in there and, all right, you want to call us barbarians? We'll show you barbarians.
Did you notice at the beginning of that second clip we showed, where they did the whole, "Hey, Marcus Bachmann, what's in your closet?"
Yes.
The reference they had to the Capital One commercials, where they're all barbarians.
Right.
So everyone's pointing out there might be something in your closet.
There was this great article written about Marcus Bachmann in the Daily Beast today, and it was talking about all of the allegations that he's in the closet. And I like that article because it just kind of shows you that we're not the only ones who see it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because I felt a little guilty, listening to that interview that he did where he called gay individuals barbarians, and he said all these hateful things. You listen to it and you're like, okay, dude, you can you can just hear it in your voice. You care too much. Anyone who cares that much about converting gay people, there's something a little questionable, right?
It's been a trend.
Right, it's been a trend exactly with politicians. You have people who come out and they're anti-gay, we hate homosexuals, it's against our, the
Some
scripture.
pastors and preachers, it crosses people that go out so hard, like we were talking about with Bishop Eddie Long. He had many times he was talking about that, and it comes out exactly the opposite of what
they were preaching, exactly. So. All right, one more story before we go to the break. Rick Perry does not understand why there are unwanted teen pregnancies in Texas, okay? He has appointed creationists to the Texas Board of Education. He has defunded all comprehensive sex education in the state of Texas, and he's actually made it so the 2 6-month courses that school kids would take for comprehensive sex education have been cut down to a single course on abstinence-only education. So you would think, obviously if he's making these moves, he's really tackling unwanted teen pregnancies and it's really helping out.
Yeah.
Except it's not. In 2007, Texas became the state with the highest unwanted teen pregnancies.
No.
Yes.
But they're working so hard.
But abstinence works, doesn't it? Now, the reason why I bring this up now is because I want you to pay close attention to the way he handled this interview that was done in October 2010. He is talking to a reporter by the name of Evan Smith from the Texas Tribune. And Evan basically asks him straight out, why is it that we have so many unwanted teen pregnancies? Let's
continue with abstinence education programs when they don't seem to be working. In fact, I think we have the 3rd highest teen pregnancy rate in the country among all the states.
Abstinence works.
But we are the 3rd highest teen pregnancy. We have the 3rd highest teen pregnancy rate among all states in the country. The questioner's point is, it doesn't seem to be working. Abstinence education.
It works. Maybe it's the maybe it's the way it's being taught or the way that it's being applied out there. But the fact of the matter is, it is the best form of to teach our children.
So as I mentioned, that interview was done in 2010. In 2007, Texas was #1 in unwanted teen pregnancy rates. They're apparently at #3 now, but they still have, among the highest unwanted teen pregnancy rates in the U.S. Okay, and part of the reason why is because they defunded comprehensive sex education.
So it goes over and over and over again as saying, now this is at least what I saw in a little bit of that what I read about it, was that it wasn't saying abstinence only education works. They kept saying that, but his response kept going, abstinence works. If you don't have sex, of course you're not going to get pregnant. Of course you're not going to have any STDs. But that's not the education. The education is what doesn't work. Abstinence only education doesn't work. But if you just happen to, never be able to get a guy or a girl to sleep with you, yeah, you're fine. You're not gonna get pregnant. It's okay. It's not gonna work out for you. But or if you don't try to. There's some people that do practice abstinence. Fine, cool, it works. But it doesn't work for abstinence-only education.
It doesn't work for the majority of teenagers. Right. It doesn't. And what I found the most problematic about that interview was the fact that he is ignoring science. He's ignoring the numbers. He's ignoring the facts based on his personal experience and his personal feelings towards something. Okay, do we want someone like that to run our country? No. I mean, does Rick Perry even have a chance?
No.
Not in hell. So I'm not even concerned about that, right? But it's so discouraging to me to know that he is a governor of a state where people actually believe in the crap that he's pushing.
Well, we've had many stories about the textbooks,
right?
The history books that they've changed there. It kind of goes along with what you could expect.
But here's the thing: as a voter, regardless of how conservative you are, regardless of the fact that you're a Republican, as a voter, how do you watch that video and think to yourself, compelling? How do you watch that video and think yeah, Rick Perry's got it going on. He knows what he's talking about.
This is the thought process. We're losing right now as far as because, first off, you ignore the numbers, but if you have a little bit of thought process and you go, well, the numbers say that this isn't working. But you go, we're losing right now. But you know what? We have to stay steadfast. We have to keep pushing because that's going to change. We're not convincing enough people. And the only way to convince more people is to continue to push what we think works, which obviously doesn't work. But it's not working right now. We're losing a couple battles, but we're going to win the war. It's the mindset. There's no room for changing your mind because that's
it becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And I think that admitting to yourself and admitting to others that you were wrong for all this time is a difficult thing to achieve. And look, there are definitely people out there who believe in the scripture. They believe, abstinence is the way to go. I can understand that. But there's no denying the facts and numbers. Okay, so I want to show you guys the second part of the interview that I found interesting. So let's watch the video.
Can you give me a statistic suggesting it works?
I'm just going to tell you from my own personal life, abstinence works. And the point is, if we're not teaching it and if we're not impressing it upon them, then no.
Is the audience laughing at him?
Yes.
That's depressing.
See, that's what I'm saying. He said, from my own personal experience, which by the way, I don't know him. I don't know anything about his history, his sexual history, but his personal experience, that dude did not sit around and not try and get at girls. If he didn't have sex, it's because they wasn't giving him any. But the second part of that, when he says, he basically said what I was talking about earlier. We just have to keep pushing and trying for it. It's the mindset. And the reason, when you asked earlier about the reason when people say, oh, well, it's not working, but if you say it's not working, if you admit to that, because it becomes your identity, because you're saying God isn't working, and you can never say that.
Right.
But those are two completely different things. You're not doing what God told you to do. You're not. There's nothing about abstinence-only education in the Bible.
Yeah.
You can teach your kids whatever you want to teach your kids. This have nothing to do with the schools that they're in. You're not in church schools. Send them to Catholic schools. Send them to Christian schools. Send them to places where they can be suppressed and not know what the outside world's like. But when it's in the public schools, this shouldn't be any of your business.
You're so right about that. You're so right about that. By the way, just to give you a little taste of the type of lessons they learn in these abstinence-only programs, the Texas Public School District Sex Ed handout asks students to look for 3 different things or 3 different qualities in their mate. And the three qualities are, how do they relate to God? Is Jesus their first love? And are they trying to impress people or serve God? Look, if my child is going to a public school, I don't want them to think about whether or not their mate is thinking about God. I want them to think about whether or not they're going to use a rubber if they're going to have sex for the first time. That's just me.
I don't want them thinking about it much at school at all. I want them to think about geometry, calculus, English, history, science. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want them thinking about, like, the conversations we have. We'll talk about, yeah, maybe parents aren't equipped or are embarrassed to have conversations with their kids. And I understand sex ed in school, cool. Mm-hmm. But like, why is that the first thought? And then you're basically doing Christian education in a public school. It's like the opposite. If you're in a Catholic school and then all of a sudden the curriculum goes around dispelling everything that you teaching your kids about religion at home, you're gonna be raised in hell about it. The people that, and I'd be a proud Christian saying, hey, I didn't send my kid to school to learn this, what you guys are teaching them. I don't know what kind of Christianity you're teaching my kid.
Right.
Because there's a way that each family wants to do their thing. It has nothing to do with a public education at all.
I agree with you. All right, we got to take a quick break. Let's do that. And when we come back, we have a few heavy stories, including war crimes that involve the rape of men. We'll be back.
Damn.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Before I forget, let me tell you what's going on tomorrow. I will be on Democracy Now! At 8:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, which is a disastrous 5:30 Eastern here in the West Coast. But nonetheless, I'm going. No, I've never been on Democracy Now! I'm really looking forward to it. Amy Goodman always brings an excellent conversation, so I look forward to that. You should definitely check that out tomorrow. And then I will be on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar at noon Eastern. And then I will be on Russia Today, RT, at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I will also be on the Young Turks, and that's at 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay? So a jam-packed day tomorrow. Ben's going to come and help us do the show. Ben and I in the first hour, and then obviously Casper comes in the second hour. So plenty of Cenk to go around tomorrow, which doesn't sound that great, but that's okay. All right. There's always plenty of Cenk to go around. Still not good. Even worse. Okay, we move forward. Okay. So, Rush Limbaugh does not believe that it is hot outside. Facts be damned. Okay? He thinks we're exaggerating it, and he's going to tell us how.
And they're playing games with us on this heat wave again. Even Drudge getting sucked in here. Going to be 116 in Washington. No, it's not. It's going to be like 100, maybe 99. The heat index, manufactured by the government, to tell you what it feels like when you add the humidity in there. 116. When's the last time the heat index was reported as an actual temperature?
Actually, they've been doing it for like 20 years. But it's manufactured by the government. All this heat manufactured by the government. You know what my favorite part of this is? How stupid conservatives are. I know I'm a bad guy for saying it that way. I should say at least Rush Limbaugh, right? I hope you guys don't believe him. Because it's not just that I don't disagree with him. It's that in the winter, they get all happy. They're like, global warming, what happened? There's a snowstorm. Fox does it every single year. Hannity does it. Those goofballs on Fox and Friends, they get ecstatic every time it snows. They're like, oh yeah, liberals, global warming. But conversely, in the summer when it's really hot, they get all depressed. They're like, oh, do you think it might be global warming? No, the government made it up. They manufactured it. It's not really that. Hey, listen, you goofballs. It doesn't work that way. It's not on a day-to-day basis. It's climate change. It's not weather change. Okay, but they don't understand it. They're simple minds. So they get nervous when it gets hot in the summer, which I enjoy. Rush Limbaugh, that's great. But the one thing that I will give him is that the weather reports, not the government, but the weather reports like to sensationalize things, right? So, like the wind chilled factor. And they were like, it is negative 79 outside. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not negative 79. They're like, with the wind chill factor plus the Doppler 4000. Okay, you're like, all right. And now we got the heat index, right? And they've been doing this for like the last 20 years. They're like, the heat index is 100 million degrees. I'm like, okay, I got you. What's the actual temperature? Okay, because the actual temperature is plenty hot, and it is roasting in Washington right now. And again, the day-to-day weather isn't climate change. Please look at some facts. Okay. And by the way, the thing we should be most concerned about is the variability in the weather, right? Whether it is, the extent of the heat, the extent of the snowstorms, but more important than anything else is the twisters, the tornadoes, et cetera, and the frequency with which they are coming, right? But damn it, Jim, I am not a scientist. I'm just a talk show host. And I don't own a Doppler 4000. All right, so we move forward. We go from one set of goofballs to another, but these guys, they're really loathsome. I mean, that was just some fun right there with Rush. But so Fox News Channel, Stuart Varney is the host, and just when you thought Fox couldn't get bad enough, well, they can apparently. They are going to question whether anybody in the country is even poor. Watch.
A new report showing poor families in the United States are not what they used to be. Now, many poor families have homes with cable TV, cell phones, computers, you name it, much, much more. I'm just going to give our viewers a quick run-through of what items poor families in America have. 99% of them have a refrigerator. 81% have a microwave. 78% have air conditioning. 63% have cable TV. 54% have cell phones. 48% have a coffee maker. I'm not surprised, they're only about $10. 38% have a computer. 32% have more than 2 TVs. 25% have a dishwasher.
That's great. He's like, did you know the poor still have fridges? It's not like how it used to be, when the poor didn't even have refrigeration and they couldn't get any food, and then they would just have to eat dirt. Remember the good old days when America was awesome? They even have fridges now and microwaves. By the way, the microwave cooks the fast food easier, and the fast food is cheaper. And so that's part of the reason that they have to buy the fast food, because they can't afford the other stuff, right? But you try to explain that to a Fox News host, please. He's like, they even have air conditioning. Some of them have air conditioning. Why aren't they in horrible, dire, like almost trouble with their health and have medical problems? I can't believe that they're sitting there and it's not in sweltering heat. How can we get the poor to suffer more? Remember the good old days of America. And he sees this as a bad thing, that even the poor sometimes have air conditioning. And did you notice? It was poor in quotes. Like, oh, the poor. Oh, please. They are really loathsome, man, but they're going to keep on going.
Actually, I'm sorry. And by the way, some of those numbers, it was getting lower and lower every time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So it's not like, and 100% of, quote, poor people have all of this stuff. No. This percentage has this stuff. But it's just sweepingly everybody has it. Which, by the way, you don't deserve. Who the hell told you to have things? You said you're poor. I don't see your gut sticking out.
Yeah, in the good old days when the poor would suffer so much more, and Fox News bosses and anchors and viewers would enjoy that more. And by the way, my dad growing up didn't have a fridge in his house, okay? Now, he was in southeastern Turkey, right? But they were really poor, right? It's not like he's bitter now that the poor have fridges. Because you know why? He's a decent human being. He's happy that they have refrigeration. It's not like, I should go back to the time it was in 1956 in southeastern Turkey, and then get up at 4 in the morning and pick olives. Otherwise, they're not poor enough. You know who thinks that? Bad people. Speaking of which, one more.
This, sir, Mr. Rector, is very different from what it was just a few years ago, isn't it?
No, actually what you see is that the living standards of the poor have increased rather steadily for the last 30 years. And in fact, the poverty report has not accurately reflected their living conditions really for several decades. Part of the reason that when you look at the actual living conditions of the 43 million people that the census says are poor, you see that in fact they have all these modern conveniences. If you ask them, did your family have enough food to eat at all times during the last year, the overwhelming majority will say yes. If you ask them, were you able to meet any medical needs that you had, they will say yes.
I love that, man. You know what? They're not even dying like they used to. They're getting their medical needs met. Remember the good old days when the poor would just die in the streets? And they're eating food, actual food. That is a damn shame, right? By the way, that's also not true. You know, there was a great 60 Minutes story about how kids that are in these families, their families used to have jobs, now they don't, and they're desperately trying to find jobs, working 2 jobs at a time. The kids can only eat 1 meal a day. But these conservatives keep mocking them. And I remember another clip we ran where they're like, what's the matter with the parents? Why don't they just let them eat cake? I mean, almost literally. They're like, why don't they just buy cereal or something? And they laugh. I mean, I'm blown away by even Fox News reveling about the idea when the poor people used to die and starve, right? And when, by the way, Stuart Varney didn't even like the beginning of the answer because he was trying to insinuate that this happened under Obama, that all of a sudden the poor are living large under Obama. And the guy's like, actually, it's been happening for 30 years. And Varney was like, oh, I do say. Who can stand Stuart Varney? Who looks at Stuart Varney and thinks, that's my boy? No one I want to hang out with, man. And lastly, the little trick that they had, you know how they said, you know, certain percentages have TVs, right? They didn't tell you what kind of TVs. And then in the video, they showed like the best TVs, like, oh, plasmas, huge screens. But they weren't in poor people's houses, they were in the store, right? Fox News at their best / worst. Okay, you know what, let's take a quick break here because I got a really great meaty story on Allen West getting poked in the chest, or at least according to him. So let's come back and do that one.